I mean, if you do Ramadan, you already know the dedication level is like.
That's the fasting?
Yeah, the fasting, yeah.
Yeah.
I have teammates that do Ramadan plus train with us. So
Wow.
they don't drink any water after practice. And I'm like, man, if you could do that, that's a different level of toughness.
Bro, I tried playing like basketball game on a fast, and I felt so weak, dude.
Yeah, lightheaded. And these guys are sparring and doing full classes.
So if they could do that, the UFC's easy.
That's not right. Yeah, that's why I was like, man, if you could do that, that's a different level of like mind control.
Wherever you guys are watching this show, I would truly appreciate it if you follow or subscribe. It helps a lot with the algorithm. It helps us get bigger and better guests, and it helps us grow the team. Truly means a lot. Thank you guys for supporting, and here's the episode. All right, guys, we got a fighting legend in the building today. Anthony Pettis, thanks for coming on, man.
Of course, man.
Absolutely. You just came off the karate combat fight, right? How did that go?
Went well. I mean, honestly, it was my first time doing something besides MMA. I boxed before, but like just the striking portion of it. It's a cool rule set. I think they got something cool going on. Like it's very entertaining. They're bringing in the right names. So I'm interested to see like where that company goes.
And that's interesting because you don't have to be in your prime to do it, right? Because it's more technical.
Yeah, I mean, you got to have a karate background, like a traditional martial art background. Just because like the rule set is more based towards traditional martial arts. You can't do the low kicks like in MMA. You can't take people down. You're not allowed to do the jiu-jitsu part. So it's really just more competition for like, because I grew up doing taekwondo and karate as a kid. There was no place for us to compete besides mixed martial arts. So that's kind of why all the traditional martial artists transition into MMA.
Right.
But there's so many traditional martial artists out there. There's probably more traditional martial artists than there are mixed martial artists.
Damn. I didn't know that. Wow.
So you figure like all these, well, karate and taekwondo are just done so well as a business. A lot of parents put their kids in taekwondo or karate right away. They grow up doing it. But then once you turn like 15 or 16, there's like really nowhere to go with it unless you're going to the Olympics.
Right.
But then mixed martial arts came. It was so popular and kind of other people transitioned over.
Interesting. Yeah, you fought in a ton of leagues. You've done boxing. Yeah. What was your favorite league to fight in?
UFC. I mean, there's nothing like that walking out in the UFC crowd. I think what they do as a business is why it's so done well. Like Dana White's a genius when it comes to marketing and making the UFC stand out.
Yeah.
But the crowd that's part of there. I fought in Japan actually. Saitama Arena, 40,000 people. And that was the craziest.
Damn.
That was probably the craziest.
40,000 people.
And they were so polite. In Japan, like they clap like this. Like a golf clap. Yeah, it's not like America.
They're not screaming like America.
No one's drinking. Like, they understand martial arts.
Wow. Was that your favorite venue to fight in?
Yeah, that's my favorite venue. Yeah,
Japan.
For sure.
Which fight was that?
Joe Lozon. Actually got a head kick knockout too. So
damn.
Went perfect.
That's crazy, man. You've had some really iconic fights, man. When you look back at your career, are there any fights you really think about to this day?
Man, I would say the ones I'm proud of is moving up weight classes. Like when I fought Wonderboy. Wonderboy was never been knocked out. He still has never been knocked out. I was the only guy to ever knock Wonderboy out.
Wow.
He's a good friend of mine too, though. So shout out to Wonderboy. It's competition. But like I would say that was probably my one that I had to earn because I moved up a weight class. I'm fighting a guy he was top 3 at the time, and I was coming from 155 to 170 is a 15-pound jump, and then the rest of them are 10 pounds. So it goes 45, 35. So yeah, I jumped up 15 pounds, fought one of the best, and got a knockout.
I feel like when people move up, most of the time they lose.
Yeah, it's hard, because it's like a different. The guys that are at 170 usually cut from like 200 pounds, and then you're fighting guys at 55 that are probably 185, 190. So it's like MMA became like a weight cutting competition.
Yeah. That's nuts, man. Are there any fights you lost that you feel like you should have won?
Man, there's so many of them. I've never been knocked out. Knock on wood. Never been knocked out in a fight. Never been submitted.
Nice.
Actually, I've been submitted one time, so I got to take that.
Who was that from?
Carlos Diego Ferreira. It was one of my last fights at lightweight. The weight cut was just killing me. That's why I moved up weight classes. Like I think as you get older and as you mature in the sport, the weight cut gets harder and harder, man.
Right.
Like it's just harder to shed them pounds. And I also fought at 145, so
Damn.
I've done a lot to my body.
You got a big range.
Yeah, bro. So I'm at 145 to 200 pounds. I fought Roy Jones Jr. at 200 pounds.
Holy crap! Was that the boxing?
Boxing fight, yeah.
That's nuts, dude.
Yeah.
When you lose, is it always by like one mistake, or is it usually just?
It's probably like a combination of mistakes. Like, cause like in mixed martial arts, there's so many ways to win. I mean, you got the wrestling, you got the striking part of it. You got cage control. I usually use against wrestlers, guys that pressure me, put me on the cage, and hold me down. My strength is striking, so like if I can get my range and my rhythm, that's when I usually have success. But the guys that I struggle with are like guys that are good at striking, but also have that forward pressure with wrestling. Like RDA. RDA is the guy who beat me for my belt. Took my belt from me. His style was just in my face the whole fight. We did 25 minutes, and he was just nonstop in my face.
Damn, that must be so annoying to fight against.
So annoying. Yeah, it feels like a bad dream.
Yeah.
You ever had them dreams where like I don't know if you ever had one, but like in your dream you hit somebody and like nothing happens. Like that's how it felt.
Damn, they're just like a brick wall walking straight at you.
I mean, their cardio is so good too, so you really got to knock them out. Like it's just like a nonstop pressure.
Yeah. 5 rounds is a long fight, man.
5 rounds is a long fight. My last fight with Roy Jones, I did 8 3-minute rounds, so it was 24 minutes. So yeah.
Jeez, were you more gassed during that or UFC?
No, actually UFC because of the wrestling. Because
Yeah.
I think when it comes to boxing, you just got 2 hands. You got understand the rhythm. You have to have like a controlled pace. It's like a marathon.
Right.
Whereas like MMA is like a sprint. Like you just go. Like you got the knees, you got the wrestling. Yeah. So I think MMA is a lot more tiring. I had more success in MMA just because like my skill set. I think 'cause I had the jiu-jitsu to back it up. A lot of submissions off my back and some crazy knockouts.
Yeah, a lot of good fighters have the jiu-jitsu background, I noticed, right? That's like a huge
I would
thing.
say jiu-jitsu is probably the most practical martial art for anybody to practice. Like if you know jiu-jitsu, you're gonna beat the guy that doesn't know jiu-jitsu just because there's actual rules and regulations that put you in that position to like break an arm, put somebody to sleep. And then the rest of them are kind of like you got to get tough and you got to get durable. Kickboxing, kind of the same thing.
Absolutely. Talk to me about the mental approach. Was there any opponents you feared going into the fight?
I never fear opponents. That's one thing. My dad told me a quote as a kid, and I lost my dad when I was 16 in a house robbery. So like when he died, like I grew up doing martial arts with him. He kind of taught me and my brothers like the competition side of it. Like you better win this tournament. And when he passed away, a quote that he gave me was never let another man put fear in your heart. And
Wow.
I just lived by that. I was like, whether it's business, whether it's fighting, whether it's, whatever it is, like I always had that in my head. And when I go to my opponents, I try to intimidate them, man. Like in square-offs, like you can win before the fights. Conor McGregor, one of the best at doing it. He wins before the fight even starts. He gets in your head. He gets in your head. He gets you emotional, and it breaks your game plan. So I think that's I played a lot of that in my career.
I saw him do that with Aldo, man.
Yeah.
5 seconds, I mean.
Crazy. Yeah, and Aldo's one of the best. Aldo's, I mean, I'd say he's one of the GOATs of mixed martial arts for what he's done in his career.
Yeah.
To see what Conor did to him, he just broke that mental.
And he was never the same after.
Never the same.
It was crazy. Yeah. It's crazy how one fight can just mentally break you for the rest of your career.
Yeah, because if you think you're invincible and all of a sudden you realize you're not, and then like the next training camp, like, man, I got to fix that hole. And then you kind of overemphasize on that hole, and then you forget what you were good at.
Yeah.
And it takes away from your power. And you see guys, transition like, oh, he was a great striker. All of a sudden he got knocked out once, and then he became a wrestler. He becomes a jiu-jitsu guy. Yeah. So I think that's what really happens. And then you get coaches as well. Like the coaches have to be, mistakes happen. And mixed martial arts is not like boxing. Like boxing, they lose once, done. MMA, like you got guys like the champs now, they all have losses, like a couple losses. It's just like figuring out what the hole was, still staying true to what your strength is and trying to fix that hole.
Yeah. So when you had that first big loss, where were you at mentally after that?
Oh man, it was rough. I've never been bled in a fight before that fight.
Wow.
That was the first time I got hit, got cut, concussion afterwards. So I felt how it felt to be on the losing side of that. Mm-hmm. And I was with my wife at the time. Well, we were married at the time, but I remember telling her, I'm like, man, if this is how it is, I don't know how I want to do this. Like, this is rough. So like I was off for like 3 or 4 months, and then
Holy crap.
Came back for a training session, and then I tear my elbow. First training session.
Damn.
And I'm off for another like 4 or 5 months recovering. So yeah, it was like from that loss to my next fight was almost a year and a half.
Holy crap. Yeah. So that must have been part of your darkest moment, right?
Yeah, dark time, man. Like the highest highs, because like when I came in, I signed with the WEC, which was like the UFC's smaller weight classes.
Yeah.
Like 125, 135, 145. Then 155 was the only division that like crossed over. Mm-hmm. So when I won the belt and the WEC, I was guaranteed a title shot in the UFC. You're talking about like minor leagues to the major leagues.
Right,
So
right.
I was coming over as the champ. I was on a Wheaties box. I've accomplished some crazy stuff in my career. And then boom, that one fight happens and right back to the zero.
Which fight was that?
Rafael Dos Anjos.
Damn.
Yep. And I lost my belt.
How'd the fight go? Did he submit you or?
No, he won a decision.
Oh, decision.
Yeah, he just outscored me on the ground. He took me down. He landed some big punches. Like the first exchange, he's a southpaw, and I should have went away from his power side. I went to his power side. Boom, got caught.
Oh, so you're supposed to go towards the power side when you're fighting?
Away from his left hand. So like if he's a southpaw, you go towards his right. Because if you go this way, power comes. And I made the mistake. Got hit with a big punch. Couldn't see for the rest of the fight.
Damn.
And he just kind of impose his will, really. And I hit him with some big stuff. Like when I watched the fight back, I'm like, man, I hit him with some high kicks, and it just didn't affect him. Like he really wanted to win.
That's crazy. So you literally couldn't see.
Couldn't see. Yeah, when I was close.
And you still were fighting.
And you still had to fight. Yeah. Otherwise,
why didn't you just drop out?
Yeah, because then you lose, and that was my belt. So it was like, yo, if I lose the belt, like it's really hard to get a title shot in the UFC.
Right.
It's not like it's really hard. Like,
yeah, it takes years, right?
And it takes like the right. The formula has to be perfect. Like you got guys that won 15 times. Tony Ferguson, won so many fights in a row, never got a title shot. Just because it just didn't add up. It didn't line up right. So a lot of things play into that.
It's sad to see his last few fights, man.
Yeah.
I feel like he should have called it earlier.
He's one of those crazy guys too, though. It's like he's like his fighting style was good because he was in your face and nonstop throwing elbows. And now you see him the way he fights, it's just like little technical errors. It's not like he's not in shape. It's like he's just doing things differently.
Right. And you fought him, right?
I fought him, yeah.
What was that like?
Man, that was like one of my favorite fights. Me and him had a great fight. I broke my hand in the second round.
Damn.
And I dropped him, so I hit him with like a kick punch. So I threw a right kick, right punch. He drops, and I just throw an overhand right, hit him right on the top of the head. And then like he already had me cut open. It was pretty funny. It's like I'm on top of him. And like I don't even know why I did it, but I just like put my tongue out and I'm bleeding all my face. Like it was like one of those in the moment type things.
Yeah.
And then
are you interested in coming on the Digital Social Hour podcast as a guest? Well, click the application link below in the description of this video. We are always looking for cool stories, cool entrepreneurs to talk to about business and life. Click the application link below, and here's the episode, guys.
The next round, and in between rounds, my coach had to stop it because my hand was broke.
So he won that one?
He won that one, yeah.
Damn, so if you didn't break your hand, you probably would have...
I think I was winning on that scorecards because I dropped him and I was already winning the first round. So I feel like on the scorecards I was winning, but his style, like without a big punch, like he's going to keep coming forward with elbows and do more damage than I really needed to at that time.
So he's like Nate Diaz. He just keeps coming.
Oh, man, he's just nonstop.
Yeah, and you fought Nate, too.
I fought Nate as well. I fought everybody.
That's nuts, dude. The Nate one, was that like you're just throwing punches and he's not even getting affected?
So I hit Nate with a big high kick. First round, I won that round. I hit him with a low kick, and he never checks. And for some reason, he checked. I broke my foot on his knee.
Oh,
like right after I break my foot, I'm like, I told my coach, I'm like, don't stop the fight. I gotta fight this one through. And his pressure is just ridiculous. Like if you don't have, for him too, if you don't have a bomb to keep him off, or like range and movement to keep him off you, he's just in your face, relentless with numbers and. Yeah, so he won on scorecards as well.
That's how he always wins, man.
Scorecards.
Always.
Yep.
Third round, he just doesn't drop, man.
And he has that cardio. He does them triathlons, and he does a lot of like cardio work and it's a weird style because like in MMA, there's not that many heavy level boxers, and that he had that boxing style, southpaw in your face, slaps and like it was.
Has he ever been knocked out, man?
He has, yeah.
Oh, he has?
Yeah, Josh Thompson knocked him out actually with a high kick. That was like the only time I think he's ever been knocked out.
Yeah, I've seen him. They usually have to stop the fight because he's just bleeding so much.
He just comes. Him and his brother, same style.
Yeah, Nick too. Yeah. When you were fighting him, like, what was going through your head, honestly?
Don't lose. I was like, man, I cannot lose to this guy because me and him had some beef back in the day.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. So when I became the champ, he was around forever, right? And then I came in and I just exploded. They put me on the Wheaties box. I did my Showtime kick, and I think he was like, yo, I should be in that spot. He always would say that, like, yo, I want to fight the Wheaties guy because I was in the box. And then when we had our fight, like we already had drama and beef. Actually, it happened at a nightclub in Vegas. It's like my crew and his crew were like talking back and forth. Someone threw a drink. And like ever since then, like we always had like some kind of like a little tension.
Yeah, his crew runs deep too.
Oh, they run deep. Yeah, they're
15,
out there in Vegas.
20.
Yeah, they're all from Kelly too. But after the fight, we squashed the beef, and it is what it is.
Nice. So some of that beef is real that you see.
Oh, that one was real. Yeah. Some of that's real.
I never know what's like real and what's kind of just marketing.
It's hard to tell now. I think after McGregor, everybody like thought that they had to like talk, sell fights. Even some people can't even do it.
I know, right?
Yeah, it's like bad. It's bad talking. But I think when McGregor happened, it's like the McGregor effect. Everybody tried to talk.
Yeah. That's why I respect Khabib because he never talked and he just won.
Yeah, no, I respect Khabib a lot too, and where he comes from, Sambo. I would say that's the best martial art to do for mixed martial arts because it's basically mixed martial arts. Yeah, and they've been doing it since as kids, and they're dedicated. I mean, if you do Ramadan, you already know the dedication level is like.
That's the fasting.
Yeah, the fasting. Yeah, and I have teammates that do Ramadan plus train with us. So they don't drink any water after practice. And I'm like, man, if you could do that, that's a different level of toughness.
Bro, I tried playing like basketball game on a fast, and I felt so weak, dude.
Yeah, lightheaded. And these guys are sparring and doing full classes and waiting tonight to eat. Yeah,
so if they could do that, the UFC's easy.
That's not right. Yeah, that's why I was like, man, if you could do that, that's a different level of like mind control and body control.
That's probably why those guys don't lose, man.
I agree. Yeah, I think Andrew Tate said it. He's like, man, if you look at like the most of the guys that are champs are like around that area, like look at their religion background. It comes back to that. Like if you could have that kind of discipline. It's not hard to put that into fighting. And then they don't drink, they don't smoke, they don't do any of that other stuff. So they're very focused on that one goal.
Yeah, were you strict on that as well? Alcohol?
I was, yeah. No alcohol during training camps. I mean, I drink out of camps, like when I'm not in training camps. For 8 weeks, I usually don't drink alcohol.
Wow.
No, I mean, none of that, nothing while I'm in training camp. And then I'll do my time off, have some fun, hang out with the wife, go on vacay, and then come back and do it again.
Load up like.
Yep.
Are you doing semen retention also during that 8 weeks?
No, I was never part of that. No, I've never believed in that. I mean, I had sex during fight week. Yeah.
So it's not true then?
I mean, I've had sex during fight week, and I've had knockout fights, and then I've had sex during fight week, and I've lost. So it's like, yeah, I've never
not enough evidence.
Yeah, I never thought it would affect my game plan. I mean, you're cutting weight too, so it's like you're cutting weight and you're like miserable. So it's like my wife's there. I'm like, man, let me kill some time.
Might as well, right?
Right.
How long you been with her?
10 years now. 12,
Nice.
12 years. We've
Okay,
been
so she's
together.
been there from early days.
From the early days. Yeah, she was there when I first won the belt, and then all the way to now.
That's a real one, bro.
She's seen everything, man. She's seen the highs, the lows. She's helped me out. After the RDA fight, we were in Dallas, Texas. We stayed probably for, I want to say 4 or 5 extra days, just because I was still trying to recover to get out the hotel room.
Damn,
so that's how bad
you
it
were
was.
that banged up.
Yeah, it was just like injuries, and the face was all cut up and stuff, and I lost. And like when you walk out, everybody's seen that. So it's
Right.
like my mom, people at the grocery store are like, "Oh man, you lost your last fight," and it's just like one of those things that kind of fucks you up psychologically.
It's like the walk of shame almost in college,
exactly,
right?
Bro. Yeah, and it's like everywhere. It doesn't go away until your next fight.
Damn, that's rough. So yeah, talk to me about like because the social media too is probably rough if you have a bad fight.
And I think when I came in, so when I won the belt, Instagram just came out. So like it was just starting to happen where like people had access to you at all times. And my Instagram blew up really quick, and I had a lot of people like giving their input, like, "Hey, Pettis needs to do wrestling or change camps," or all this advice. And yeah, I grew up and understood, like, all right, I got to filter that. Like you can see it, but if it plants a seed and like it changes the way you think, then you got to like go back and reassess like where you're at.
Agreed. It's tough these days with so much scrutiny, especially on Twitter, dude. People have no chill on Twitter.
I mean, bro, anywhere, Facebook too, bro. Like it's just, wherever they have access to you, they have no chill.
Absolutely, dude. So are you going all in on boxing?
I'm boxing again, so I'm gonna do one more. My next fight will be a boxing fight. I wouldn't say I'm done with mixed martial arts yet. I just took a break. I've got other opportunities coming up. Money's great outside of MMA right now.
Nice.
Outside of the UFC. But I my passion was boxing for a long time. Like I was really good at boxing. MMA just made sense at the time. So,
More money at the time, right?
Yeah, at the time it was just quicker to get money in mixed martial arts, and I had that quick success.
Yeah.
Now that I have a name, I get to pick and choose when I want to fight and who I want to fight. So
Yeah.
it helps.
I saw you say on another show you've never bet on your own fight.
Yeah, never.
How come?
I just didn't believe in it. I'm a betting man. I bet a lot. I've done very well in betting, and I've made some big wins.
Nice.
But I think like once you put it on yourself, like I'm not even thinking about that. Like my only focus back then was like getting 2 paychecks, maybe 3. The show money, the win money, and then a bonus if I got a knockout, and that was like all I would focus on.
Right.
And then like when I had time to like watch fights and like gather information and see like when you're a fighter, like what styles win fights and which ones can. And in mixed martial arts, it's crazy because like you would think somebody would win, and then boom, they lose. So like, MMA math never really makes sense. But I think for me, it's like the guys I know that I train with, the guys that I know like how hungry they are and how much they want it.
Yeah.
Those are the guys I usually put
Nice.
my bucks on.
What was your win rate in terms of betting on UFC fights?
Man, I was doing very well. My biggest one was my little bro. The fight before this, he just came back from an injury, and he was fighting the 145-pound champ in Bellator, and he was a 35-pound champ, and he beat the 45-pound champ, and I think he was like a plus 300.
Damn.
350, I got him. Yeah, plus 350. I put like 50,000 on him.
Put 50K in,
I put
bro?
75 altogether.
Did you tell him before you did it?
Yeah, he knew. Yeah, he knew. Yeah, he knew.
Damn, you put that pressure on him, man.
Yeah, I mean, he knows what's up. He's like, I'm a big boy. Take my own risk.
That makes sense, though, because most people would say that's gambling, but you have so much knowledge in the sport that you can make educated decisions.
It's definitely still gambling, though, because I've made some picks where I'm like, oh, this one's guaranteed to win. I mean, this last weekend, bro, like Ilya Topuria comes and beats Volkanovski.
Oh, you had Volk?
I didn't bet on that one, actually. But like, if I had to pick, I would have said Volk.
Wow.
And to see Ilya do that, man, it's like, man, you never know.
Yeah, because the experience, I thought Volk would have him, right?
Yeah, and he has just a more well-rounded game. Volk can kick, he can wrestle, he has good jiu-jitsu defense. Ilya just came with them hands.
One
I don't
punch,
think Ilya ever threw a high kick or a body kick in any of his fights.
Damn.
Only punches and low kicks.
That's actually crazy.
That's crazy, yeah.
Because you could counter that knowing that.
Yeah, and he has success with it, man. So I think when you get to those certain guys, like when I was on my rise to the top, you're so focused and obsessed with the sport that you're like, you just think you're invincible. That's how I felt, man. I would train in any training room. I'd come to Vegas. I go to all the gyms here, spar all the best guys, and I knew I was like, yeah, I'm the best in the world.
You were that guy.
I was that guy, yeah. And then like once, like I said, once you get that one first loss, you become human, and you're like, oh, gotta figure that part out.
Yeah. A lot of people have losses now, like you said, though. It's not like the old days where you were undefeated.
Yeah. It's hard to be undefeated, man. Like, there's so many good guys. Like, if you see, like, I do my own fight show, APFC.
Yeah.
I just did a fight show in Manchester. I had a 15-year-old and a 14-year-old fighting, but it's like, it's pancration style, so you can't hit to the face.
Okay.
But the level of technique and skill they had was insane. I'm like, man, these guys, when they turn 18, that no one's going to be even close to their levels. One of them had like 50 fights, and he's only 14, 15 years old. 50 fights. So you figure the experience level that these kids are getting, like, the game of mixed martial arts is about to be insane in a couple of years.
Yeah. Have you seen it evolve from when you first got in, like the skill level go up a lot?
1,000,000%. Like when I first got in, it was like practitioners. Like a guy that had really good wrestling, or a guy that had really good jiu-jitsu, or a striker.
Yeah.
Now everybody knows everything.
Every
it's
single
like,
style.
It's a full mixed martial arts. These guys are good at everything.
And you have to be these days because you're fighting so many different styles.
Definitely.
You can't just specialize in boxing or striking, right?
You don't see the the guys that are specialized in anything. Like they're not winning fights like they used to, because other guys know, like, I'll wrestle this guy, or I'll take him down, do jiu-jitsu on this guy.
Look at McGregor, right? Striking used to be enough to just win fights, but now I feel like you need more than just striking.
Definitely, you got to be well-rounded.
I think he's lost 5 straight now.
He hasn't won in a while.
Yeah, it's been like almost 10 years, dude.
Yeah, it's been a while.
But that run was crazy. What was going through your head during that run?
Man, that was right after my run.
Oh yeah,
yeah. So when he beat Aldo, I just lost my belt to RDA. So like our paths didn't cross because of that. So like he fought Eddie Alvarez, and I just fought Eddie Alvarez like maybe 2 months before that. And
Damn.
Eddie beat RDA. So it was like
so you were right there. You almost fought him if you won that fight.
If I would have won Eddie or RDA, I would have me and McGregor would have fought.
Wow,
that would have been a fun fight too. I mean,
two strikers, right?
Yeah, his style's fun. My style's fun. I think it would have been a great fight for the fans.
That's nuts. You think he'll ever fight again, or you think he's done?
I mean, he just made so much money. That's the hard thing, and this is why I think the UFC has like such a great business model. They pay their fighters enough to have to fight again. Like they're not paying these guys millions of bucks and like, all right, go take a break for a couple, like boxing. Like MMA, like you get your couple $100,000, and then they know, like, all right, next couple months, this guy's gonna need a fight. And I think that's why they're so busy. Like MMA fighters got to stay busy because they want to, pay for their families.
Boxers only fight like once a year usually, maybe twice.
I mean, and the high level guys, Canelo Alvarez, twice a year.
Yeah,
and he's making crazy money per fight. So it's like he could take his time off and pick and choose his opponents. And the UFC tells you who you're fighting next, and you got to say yes, otherwise they'll bench you.
Oh, so you have no say.
You can say no, but if you say no, then they'll pass you up for the next guy. So
got it. So you kind of have to just.
You kind of just have to say
no matter
yes.
who it is. Wow. And you can't even request fights. You got to just.
You can.
Oh,
you can call out guys and like say this is who I want to fight next, but it's ultimately up to the UFC. Like their job and their matchmaker jobs is to put on interesting fights.
That's dope.
And that's why they have such such great product, because
they're
the best are fighting the best.
How do you balance friendships? Because you probably had to fight some of your boys, and like, can you still knock them out if they're friends?
Oh man, yeah. I mean, Wonderboy was definitely one of my friends. I would say, I mean, we wouldn't say we were best friends, but we definitely were cool. Like we were acquaintances. I knew his dad.
Yeah.
And then leading up to that fight, we fought in Virginia. No, we fought in Tennessee, I think. I forget where we fought at. But I know I was supposed to lose that fight. Everybody was there to watch him win, and his dad was doing all the radio shows with him, and like we had to do a press tour together. Yeah. And then once we square off, it's like, all right, time to enter the cage. And when we get in there, I see his face. It's different than when we were like hanging out and talking. And I'm like, all right, now it's time to go.
It's like a switch.
It's like a switch. You got to be able to turn it on and off. Like,
damn, I don't know. I'm picturing like my best friend, and I don't know if I can knock him out, dude. I think it's a killer instinct.
I think if he's trying to knock you out, you could.
Okay, fair.
You feel a punch come at your face, or your nose starts bleeding. You're like, oh, okay, we're back in a fight.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
What about with Dana? Did you have a friendship with him during?
Oh man, me and Dana are really good friends. Still good with friends. Yeah,
nice.
I was actually just with Dana at Criss Angel show. I'm doing me and Chris are partners in my APFC. So Chris is he's helping me do the production side. I don't know if you've ever seen his show out here in Vegas.
Yeah, I saw you on it when I was researching.
Yeah, his show is crazy. Like his
not his show. I saw you on his podcast.
Oh yeah, his show. So like his show in Planet Hollywood, he has a studio where he does his Mind Freak show.
Oh, dope.
But that's where we're gonna start doing APFC shows in there. So
nice.
The same level of production, like all the stuff that he could do, but with mixed martial arts being like the key, the hook of it. But yeah, so me and Dana, Dana helped me like when I was up and coming. The fight I won after the Henderson fight, after I did the Showtime kick, I was supposed to fight for a world title shot at the UFC. They fought to a draw, so that didn't happen. Then they gave me a Clay Guida, and that was my first loss in the UFC, Clay Guida. And it was like a wrestling guy. Again, he didn't beat me up. He just held me down for 3 rounds. And right after that fight, I knew I was like, all right, I'm going on a run. And that's when I got my title shot. I beat, Cowboy Cerrone, Joe Lozon. There was a bunch of guys in a row, and then I got my title shot finally.
Nice.
And then after that title shot, I, won the belt. Dana had an opportunity to put a fighter in the Wheaties box, and he picked me. And
wow, he could have picked anyone.
He could have picked anybody, yeah. But at that time, I was really hot. I did the Showtime kick. I was knocking guys out.
Yeah.
Then he picked me to be on the Wheaties box, so he put me on the Wheaties box. Helped me buy my mom her first house. So,
damn.
Yeah, man. I have a lot of respect for Dana.
That's big time, man. Yep. How'd you get close with Criss Angel?
Actually in a club. Craziest thing ever.
He was in a club?
We were in a club, yeah.
I can't picture
Moon
him, man.
nightclub in Palms. Yeah. So I had a table and he had a table next to me. And that was after the Showtime kick. He was a fan of like, what I did in mixed martial arts. So we just like talked and we were friends for a while and nothing no business wise. And then I bought a house out here in Vegas in like 2013.
Good timing.
Yeah, I know. I was like right down the block from him. So like he's like up the hill from me. And then I was the only guy I really knew in Vegas. So he kind of showed me around and like, showed me the ropes and now we're doing business together, and I've seen what he can do with his show. I mean, he's the #1 show in Vegas. So
I heard that.
If he could help, bring any of that towards mixed martial arts, it'd be amazing.
Yeah, I just saw him say on Steve O's podcast that show's bringing in $150 million a year.
Crazy, man.
Nuts, dude.
And it's been like that for years and years. I mean,
Dude,
he was at the
yeah.
Luxor before that.
I saw that.
Yeah, so at Luxor, he was doing the same thing. Yeah, so he is the #1 show in Vegas.
That's awesome, man. And I saw you go on Mike Tyson's podcast.
Yeah.
What was that like?
That was crazy, man. Craziest thing. So I went with my little brother, and my little brother's a fighter too.
Yeah.
We're the first 2 champion brothers. Like,
Oh,
that
yeah?
actually have belts together.
I thought the Diaz were.
No, they never champs.
Oh,
They
wow.
were never champs. So Nick never won a belt. And Nate was the BMF title.
Okay.
Serge won the Bellator belt, and I won the UFC belts. Like we were pretty well known in mixed martial arts, pretty respected.
Yeah.
And then Mike Tyson reached out for that hot boxing podcast. And it was kind of new when we did it. It was like brand new.
Years ago, yeah.
Yeah. So when we went on there, the first thing he did is like we get in there. He's like each of us gets a joint, and like I smoke, but not like that. So we smoke, and we're like, you can't say no to Mike. So we're smoking with Mike. We sit down in the podcast, and I was so high. All I could say was like, "Damn, that's crazy."
Yeah.
I swear I was so high. And I watched it back. I'm like, man, I missed out on like being able to have like a real combo with Mike.
That's jokes.
But he's so like passionate about his stories. Like he's
Yeah.
like in your face, and like you don't know if he's serious or if he's like if he's gonna go off in a weird way. And
Yeah.
man, he was like, I was too high for that one.
That's jokes. Was your brother high too?
But we was so lit. We got done afterwards. Like, man, I shouldn't have smoked that much.
Oh my God. I would have taken one hit and threw it
No,
out.
they gave us each one. So like we were
A whole
passed
joint?
each. Yeah. So like
Oh,
he
my-
had one, I had. We were all at the table. We had our own. Yeah.
I would
so
have
it was
blacked out.
Yeah, that's how I felt.
For real. Like, I don't smoke like that. If I take one hit right now, I'm so high, dude.
I just
Crazy.
stopped smoking. I stopped for like 2 weeks now, like trying to get back into camp now. So
Yeah.
when I do camps, but I'm in Vegas, bro. I'm a big believer in the way weed helps you sleep. I
Yeah.
think that's what it does, like recovery wise. Like I usually do it at night right before I go to bed. My sleep, I get on that, and I wake up the next day, I feel way better rested.
You're out, yeah.
Yeah, than without it.
I like how the UFC changed their stance because
Yeah.
when they banned Nick for 5 years, I was
That's
like,
so crazy.
damn,
man.
for
Yeah.
weed, like
so crazy. Yeah,
I mean-
it's kind of up what they did to him.
they could have did that to anyone.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, he was smoking like right before fights, but
Oh, okay.
it's like especially out here, it's legal. So it's like it's like drinking. Like
Yeah.
it's like it's normal out here now.
Absolutely. Have you ever fought your brother?
I spar him all the time.
Yeah?
we had this crazy sparring. Serge is the only guy that ever dropped me with a punch.
Damn.
Yeah. He went in a sparring session with big gloves on too.
Holy crap.
Yeah, and he's like, he's a 135er. I mean, he probably walks like 160, 165.
Yeah.
But we had a sparring session. It was right before the fight I got submitted. He hit me with a jab. I got rocked. And I didn't realize I was concussed. So like this is the week before the fight.
Yeah.
I go do my last training session. I was doing like broad jumps. And like every time I jumped, like I would feel dizzy. I'm like, damn, something doesn't feel right.
Damn.
So I went that whole fight. I thought it was because I was cutting weight. I went that whole little week with just with a concussion.
Wow.
Like I was crying on the airplane. I'm like, man, like I feel like something doesn't feel right. I was telling my wife, I'm like, yo, usually I'm in control of my emotions. Like I don't
Yeah.
cry like that. And I'm like,
Jeez.
I was crying on an airplane. I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
They don't test concussions before the
But
fight?
no, I mean, it's up to you. Like you got to like say you got something wrong with you.
Wow.
Like they'll do like the basic, medical tests to check your hands, make sure your weight cut was right.
Yeah.
Your face. Like there's like a super easy medical test, and that wasn't. They couldn't see that.
Damn.
And after the fight, I went to the Mayo Clinic, and they're like, yeah, you got a concussion, man. So
Holy
like, a couple months to get back normal off of that.
From a concussion?
Those are scarier than everything. Because
Really?
like, your brain is just like you just have these moments of like panic attacks and like you get dizzy, the lights when you're driving, like just stuff that you can't control. So yeah,
I didn't know that.
concussions. Concussions is the scariest thing.
I've never had one. I thought they just take like a week to recover and you're good.
It just depends how bad it was. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But
So he really
mine was
rocked
pretty
you.
bad. Well, then I fought afterwards too, right? So I didn't take no time off.
That probably didn't help.
Yeah, we're right too. Luckily, the guy I fought was a jiu-jitsu guy. It wasn't a striker.
Damn, man. It sounds like you've had quite a few concussions.
Yeah, well, that was the one I really remember. Like that was like one where I was like, that I had to go get medical attention.
Jeez.
After fights, I'm sure we're all concussed. Like we get hit that many
Yeah.
times, but like usually you go to the after party, have a couple of drinks, and you forget about it.
We got to get you a brain scan, man. See what's going on. up
I've
there.
done it. Yeah,
Oh,
I've
you've
done
done
it.
it?
Yeah, UFC does it now. Actually, they
Oh,
do it
okay.
for all their athletes. So that all the athletes in the UFC PI get to do a brain test before their fights, after their fights.
Oh,
Yeah, they try to get you back to before, like where you were at before your fight, before you can take another fight.
that's probably smart of them.
Oh,
'cause
so much
if
smarter.
People
I
are
mean,
getting brain
longevity.
damage.
Yeah, longevity for careers and like, just health for their fighters, man.
Yeah. Because you see some of these boxers, like the older guys, they can't even talk, dude. It's kind of scary, actually.
Most of them, man. Like,
oh yeah, literally most of them.
You can hear it happen too. Like they'll have a conversation with a guy, and all of a sudden, the next time you speak to him, you're like, oh, something's different.
Yeah, they don't remember it. Or,
something's different.
Yeah, but I think Tyson with the psychedelics really helped.
Yeah, man, he told me about that too. The DMTs and the mushrooms. I've never done DMT yet, and I've done mushrooms. Mushrooms definitely.
I love mushrooms.
Yeah, I love mushrooms too. Like it's one of those things that makes your day better. If I have to figure something out.
Oh yeah,
do mushrooms.
You get locked in on those.
Yeah, and then it takes away the ego. Like you can figure out problems without like the ego being involved. I feel like. Yeah. Yes, but the way he's explained DMT made me definitely want to try that. I'm like,
it's on my bucket list.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
ayahuasca on my bucket list
for sure.
I definitely want to try it and see like what it opens up, because if you smoke, have you smoked before?
I smoke weed,
so you know that feeling you get from weed, then you get the feeling from mushrooms, and it's totally different.
Super
parts
different.
of your brain.
Yeah,
I can only imagine DMT and ayahuasca, like what it could
it's
open
gonna
up.
Be that movie Limitless. Have you seen
right?
that?
Yeah. Get that done.
Have you had battles with your ego over the years?
Oh yeah, so much, man. Like I think so when my dad died at 16, I stopped fighting, I stopped doing martial arts, I stopped doing everything, and like I was in a moment in my life where I'm like, and I was 16 years old trying to figure out like what a man I'm gonna be. Like I was supposed to be like figuring out prom and homecoming, and I had to figure out my life. I had to pay my mom's bills, and like my mom too. Like when my dad got killed, my mom stopped working. Like she was just so I lost both parents.
She shut down.
She shut down, man, for like probably 2-3 years. Like,
holy crap!
So me and my older brother had to take care of the household. We had to pay for the bills, and then we had my younger brother. He was 9 at the time when it happened, so he really didn't understand what was going on. He understood he lost his dad, but like not the rest of everything that came along with it. And I think that's where my ego actually came about. Like when I figured out I could do it by myself, I was like, oh man, I didn't have a mom or dad to tell me like this is right, this is wrong, this is what you're supposed to be doing. I kind of made all my own decisions, and it worked out really quick for me, man. Like at 18, 19, I signed with the WEC, and I was the world champ at like 22, 23 years old. So my ego was like way up here. And then that RDA fight, ego check, man. And like everything, like I reevaluated everything, my training, my relationships, who I was giving access to. And I just saw a lot of it was my fault. I take a lot of responsibility for that fight and why I got to that position.
Damn. Yeah, it takes some balance, right? Yeah. You can't have it too high, but you also don't want it too low.
Especially in fighting. Like you want to have the confidence like, I can win this fight, but not the confidence we're invincible. Because that's when like you figure out, like you get hit and you're like, oh, that's when you see a guy's like, and then his career goes way down here because it's an ego thing.
Yeah, you see a lot of fighters like that, man. Yeah. I mean, McGregor, obviously, and there's a few that have just gone from like the top of the top, and then...
Yeah, you see boxing too, because boxing's longer than UFC, been around longer than UFC, but you see like the top of the top boxers that get that first loss. Yeah. Never the same.
Facts. Damn, man. It's been fun getting to know you, dude. Anything you want to promote or close off with?
No, man. Thank you guys for having me, bro. Oh, Indiana, April 7th, APFC. We're doing a big show out there. Up and coming guys. A lot of good. So my goal with APFC was just to give the younger guys a platform to get to the bigger shows. I think so far I've had 10 shows and I already have almost 15 guys signed to the bigger organizations.
Damn.
Yeah, so APFC, April 7th. We're giving these guys a platform to showcase their skills. And if you guys get to tune in, make sure you guys check it out.
Sick. We'll link it below. Thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you, brother.
Yeah, thanks for watching, guys. See you tomorrow.